So, hello everybody. Thank you for joining us. We might have a few stragglers joining as we get going. I'm not going to introduce Penny really, because we're going to be discussing who you are and what you've done anyway. This is Penny George. So everybody's here, wanted to listen to you about living proof. And I know you had your own recovery journey, and that's part of why you set this. But just to start with, Penny, why did you? What's your own journey?
Your sound is dropping out a little bit, Georgie. I know you just mentioned that before
sorry,
everyone else found us. But I think you asked me why I founded Living Proof. Is that what the question was?
Yes.
Yeah, well, thank you everyone, first of all, for coming along. It's absolutely great to see you. I know quite a lot of you, and quite a lot of you I don't know, which is great as well. So yeah, as Georgie said, I recovered myself from chronic fatigue syndrome in 2019. I know some of you already know this. I'll go into the details. And a year later, or roughly a year later, also from chronic pain that I'd had in my arm and shoulder, when I eventually realised that that was also coming from here. When I had my main recovery from chronic fatigue syndrome, you know, like many of us, I was totally blown away by it and thought, well, you know, the world needs to know about this. And through a sort of sequence of events, I ended up getting introduced to Georgie. And by that point, we were in lockdown, the big lockdown that we went through. And Georgie at that point started doing online Facebook Live recovery interviews. So I volunteered to do one of those. And through doing that, I ended up being introduced to Dan Hinesley, who some of you know as well, who recovered from about 15 years of back pain. And he and I started working together, all online to begin with. We didn't meet for a year and a half, I think. We only had worked together online. I think it was a year and a half. Anyway, he and I started working together, and we set up sort of informally, we started an organization that wasn't an organization. It didn't have any actual sort of official standing, called Mindbody Medicine. And we set up a website, and we made the first of the 2 films that some of you might have seen, the 2 little Living Proof short films. So we made the first one, which was the story of Charlie, who recovered from chronic pain. And we put that film out, and it was quite well received. And we thought, well, we'll make another one. We made the second one last year about Fiona, who recovered from chronic fatigue syndrome like myself, although she was ill for a lot longer than I was. And that film was launched the same day as I ended up launching Living Proof, which was at Georgie's SIRPA conference in London last year that a number of you were at. And when we were making that second film, I was kind of more and more thinking that I would like to do something more with this, and that I would like to kind of formalize an organization of some kind to give it some kind of footing and some kind of official status, I suppose. So yeah, just in the summer last year, I made the decision to go ahead and set Living Proof up as a non-profit. So it is a business on paper at the moment. Some people have asked me if I might consider registering it as a charity, which I might. It's quite a lot of paperwork, because Dan and I looked into that initially. So I'm not going to jump straight into that. But for now, just running it as a non-profit, and I'm doing everything voluntarily. Well, there's no money being made anyway yet, so nothing to pay myself with, even if I wanted to. But I've made the decision to do it voluntarily, certainly for now. And I've got quite a number of people volunteering for Living Proof as well now, which is amazing.
Fantastic. And that's the main thing. Sorry, at the moment somebody else is trying to get in, so I was hoping you'd speak for a little bit longer.
Oh,
just to let this person in, but so I should have sent that now. Yeah, and so we've been in discussions throughout, really, haven't we? And then you asked if you could launch Living Proof conference, which was wonderful. So we all sat there feeling really emotional, watching the Living Proof story, and it was just wonderful, and there was a lot of interest. and it's it just.
Your sound is going again, Georgie, I'm afraid.
Sorry, everybody. My IT guy wasn't available, but I was aware my sound wasn't great, so I'll just do my best. Apologies for this. So, what's really behind the purpose for developing Living Proof?
So, I think so. Dan and I, from the beginning, when we started working together, we always talked about how, you know, when you know where to look, there's quite a lot of support for people at an individual level available. You know, you do have to know where to look, but once you've found the resources, there's quite a lot of coaches out there, many of whom you're training yourself, Georgie, and there's lots in the States. And there's lots of, you know, books and apps and podcasts and all the rest of it, once you know where to find them. So Dan and I felt that we didn't need to really reinvent the wheel in terms of more support on an individual level, and neither of us wanted to. We don't want to be coaches. We don't want to do one-to-one support. So we always thought that what's going to be important going forward is trying to get systemic change, you know, so that ultimately the medical community understand it and adopt it. And that's, you know, we thought if you can educate GPs about this, GPs in particular, so the whole medical profession or health profession even, but GPs in particular, because they're the first port of call for people, you know. Well, I mean, we all know this, you know, when you have something wrong, you don't know anything about this mind-body approach, you've got a sore foot or a sore back or a, you know, chronic fatigue or whatever symptom you have, the first thing we do in our society is we phone the GP surgery and we make an appointment if you can get one. And so that's your first port of call. And if that GP can understand better or understand at all this science and can recognize it and obviously be sure that they're not overlooking some kind of structural issue, but if they can be certain of that and then diagnose this, you know, whatever we want to call it, mind-body syndrome or, you know, whatever terminology we're using, and then start signposting patients to the resources that we know are out there, then, you know, hopefully we can reach that kind of tipping point where more people are able to benefit from this. So that was our kind of thinking from the beginning, and that's still primarily what we're looking to do.
The overall. Yeah. So what I just want to say is that everybody will have a chance to post some questions in the chat box. If you've got anything burning now, by all means do. Otherwise, Penny will be open to questions afterwards. But in the meantime, how are you going about? What have you done so far? How are you going about reaching this?
So, so far, I suppose the two films that Dan and I made have given us a really good platform for getting the word about Living Proof out there, you know. And I actually meant to check the latest number of views before we came on this on the webinar. But I certainly know that Fiona's film, the second film about chronic fatigue syndrome, just hit 9,000 views the other day because Fiona texted me to say 9,000 views. And I think Charlie's film is, I haven't looked recently, but I think it's at about 4,500, 5,000. Oh, there we are. Yeah, 4,500.
4,400.
So, I mean, some of those will be double counting, but you know, if you add all that up, that's like 13,000 views, which is pretty amazing, actually. And you know, the way that I see it is every one person that gets help, that's another, you know, life regained, hopefully. You know, the way that I was able to do, and that many other people here were able to do. So the films have given us a really good platform for getting ourselves out there, and being able to launch that second film at your conference really helped, I think, because it instantly pushed it out to quite a lot of people, and it started being shared quite quickly, which has been great. So I spent the first few months, you know, speaking to the medical advisors that we have for Living Proof quite a lot, and other volunteers who were starting to come on board, really trying to nail down exactly what we wanted to focus on. And the next thing we did after that was we launched in December, we launched our mindbody
Yes.
So far we've just got 2. We've got one in London and one in Scotland.
And do you want to explain what they are, people who don't know?
Yeah, so they are groups that are set up specifically for people who have recovered or who are sort of well on their way to recovery, so who have a good understanding of science and are, you know, seeing good success with it. And the idea with that, to be completely honest, that came from a more selfish point of view for myself, because I don't know if other people feel like this, but since I recovered myself, I felt quite isolated in my own friend group because they don't understand what happened to me. And, you know, I have, like many of you, a completely different way of seeing the world now, you know. And if I get a twinge in my back, I think, oh, what's going on up here, you know, or what's going on emotionally for me, rather than, oh, I must have something on the back, you know. And friends, I've got quite a lot of my friends are quite sort of lefty alternative kind of people, and some of them claim to understand the approach, but actually when you start digging down into it, they don't really, you know. They say things like, yeah, I totally get it, you know, mind-body connection, you know. And then one friend, you know, here's the phone number of my naturopath. And I'm like, I don't need the phone number of your naturopath, thank you. But, you know, so I ended up feeling quite isolated myself without people around me in my local area who get it, other than Lisa, who's here listening. And so I thought, well, I would really like to have more people in, you know, in Scotland that I can actually meet up with and start to make friends with and connect with, and kind of create a peer-to-peer support opportunity. And I thought, well, if I feel like that, then I'm going to guess that maybe some other people feel like that. And I've seen some of you nodding, been talking, so I'm guessing you maybe do. So we started the Scottish one, or we launched the Scottish one in December. And there's 5 or 6 of us, I think, in the group so far in Scotland, which is great. And then Charlie, the girl who featured in the first film about chronic pain, she volunteered to set up the one in London. She's based in London. And so they've just had one meeting so far, which was in January, I think. And they've got another one coming up in May, next month, in London. I wrote it down, the 18th of May in London is the next one. And the next one in Scotland is on the 10th of June. So
all the information, if people want to join that, is on the Living Proof website. Yeah?
It is. I actually need to update it with those dates, but yes. And any questions at all, you know, if anyone wants any information about them, just you can contact me via the Living Proof website, or I can give my email address here, and you can just get in touch to find out more. Yeah. So that. Sorry, say again.
What are your other plans?
So there's various things in the offing. So once we launched the mindbody live groups, I mean live as in person groups, a few people got in touch with me, people who are still struggling with symptoms, and said, you know, what about us? Which is a completely fair question. And it's a balance. It's always a balance, because, you know, of course I want to try and help everybody, but at the same time I'm trying to remember that Living Proof is primarily about trying to sort of educate the health profession primarily. Yeah. However, I did have somebody step forward and volunteer to start running online support groups. So thank you, Liz, I've just seen your comment. So this is a lady called Sarah Howarth, who I don't think is on the call with us. She is English, but living in the US at the moment. And she's been through her own absolutely incredible recovery story. And she wanted to see if she could run kind of peer-to-peer support groups online for people who are still experiencing symptoms. So we haven't launched this yet. It's coming, hopefully in June we'll be able to launch it. But I'll keep putting information out in the Living Proof newsletter. So Sarah and I are going to host a pilot of that in, like I say, hopefully in June. I think it'll be limited to, I think we're limiting it to 12 people initially, just so it's a manageable
Yes.
size of group, you know, so everybody gets a chance to participate and
And
join
then
in.
are both of you going to be running it together?
Well, the pilot certainly, and then after that, a number of the people who are volunteering from Living Proof at the moment have also offered to co-facilitate. So the aim will be to always have 2 facilitators. Sarah might always be one of them because she's, I think, going to be the lead on it. And then if the others, it will rotate between me and some of the other volunteers. But we'll figure it out once we do the pilot. But the idea will primarily be, because, you know, we're not medically trained, the idea will be to provide a platform where the participants are offering peer-to-peer support. You know, rather than, we hope it works, that's what the pilot's for, rather than everybody asking us the answers to everything. You know, you learn something best, don't you, if you explain it to someone else. So it's an opportunity for the people who are participating to hopefully answer each other's questions about the science and the mind-body approach, and, you know, what do I need to do differently, and, oh, I'm having a flare, and, you know, all the questions that we often have. But we'll be there to keep them right in case they start going off track or making mistakes, not mistakes, but, you know, starting going down the you know, oh, why don't you try vitamin D route or something, which is obviously not mind-body. So that's the idea. So keep your eyes peeled for that, and I'll be keeping people updated through the Living Proof newsletter, which you can sign up to on the website if you haven't.
Fabulous. And I noticed you're wearing a T-shirt.
I am wearing a T-shirt. So Carolyn is here as well. She has one too. Are you wearing yours, Carolyn? Not wearing. Oh, Carolyn, come on. Oh. So Carolyn's been my co-tester. So I'm just going to show you the front. So I don't know if you can see it. Can you?
Yes.
I am Living Proof, and then I'm going to attempt to show you the back. Hold on a second. We'll see if you can read this. That's so ridiculous.
Yeah, we can read it beautifully.
Okay. And then the website is down at the bottom.
Good, I like them.
That's got to be a first, hasn't it? So this idea, I actually came from, let me go backwards a little bit. So one of the other things I have maybe slightly foolishly signed up to do recently is the Flipping Pain cycling outreach tour.
Yes.
So for those of you that don't know, Flipping Pain is a public health campaign based in the northeast of England, and their messages are pretty similar to what we all talk about. They're very, very science based, and so they're ultimately they're more focused on pain management than recovery, which, you know, Living Proof wants to go that step further and help people fully recover. But, you know, they're definitely along the same lines, and they've done it once before, and they're doing a second cycling tour in the northeast of England. And the guy who directs the campaign got in touch with me and invited me to apply to join the cycling tour because I run Living Proof. And I literally hammered in the application as quickly as I could before my brain started saying, no, you can't do this. How can you possibly cycle 40 miles a day? I just got it in quickly and got it over and done with. And I got a place. So that's in 3 weeks, I think. So we're cycling 200 miles over 5 days, and I am not a cyclist. Well, I've kind of become a cyclist in the last
You can be
months.
a cyclist. You choose.
I can be a cyclist, yeah. And it's not a race. It's not a race. It's like a supported thing. Yeah. So, you know, hopefully I can survive. Anyway, the point is, for the Flipping Pain tour, it's all funded, and we are being given Lycra, absolutely ridiculous, you know, tight things to wear, covered in the Flipping Pain logo and branding.
Yeah.
So I was looking at all this online, and that's where I got the T-shirt idea from. I thought, well, you know, I'm slightly borrowing their idea. You know, we're going to be cycling 25 of us through these little villages in the Tees Valley, being seen, you know, in this branding and in these colours and all the rest of it. And hopefully the idea will be people will say, what's that about? And come and listen to the talks and events in the evening. So I started thinking, well, why couldn't we do something like that? Why couldn't we have a T-shirt? And, and I think Pippa just put it in the chat there that, if you want to join in this campaign, you can order a T-shirt through the Living Proof website. And you can have your own wording on the back for whatever you recovered from, or, however much detail you want to go into about it. Some people are just asking me how I recovered from chronic pain. You don't need to go into detail if it's, something personal.
Lots of interest in the chat box already.
It's great. It's fantastic. We've had a few orders. I only launched it on Monday evening, and we've had a few orders for T-shirts already. So it's great. And so I've been wearing it at park runs. I also became a runner about 2 months ago. I've been suddenly getting more active, and I've started doing park runs on a Saturday morning. So I've been wearing the T-shirt to park runs, and it works. People come and ask, and it's just amazing, absolutely amazing. At the last one I did, unfortunately, of course, you're running, and I'm not exactly an expert runner, but you're running and somebody runs up beside you and says, so how did you recover? And I'm like, I can't tell you right now, can I find you at the end? So I'm not a good enough runner to give you a whole explanation about mind, body, science and run 5K. Not, I can know I'm a real runner. Anyway, this guy did ask me at the last one I was at, as we were running, and I said to him, can I find you at the end? And he was clearly a lot faster than me, but he did actually wait for me at the end, and he said, so, tell me. And he was just blown away. He kept saying, but that's amazing. You had chronic fatigue syndrome and you're doing park run. And I was like, yes, it's possible. And so, it actually worked. And I could hear other people around when I was chatting to him. Other people were listening as well, because there's a bit of a gathering around the finish line at park runs. So, it works. It's absolutely amazing. So,
they're asking you. It's just there, and therefore it's interesting they ask you, rather than us trying to be helpful and recommending. And then
exactly. And that's why I put the website on the bottom of the T-shirt as well, because there will be some people that don't feel able to approach you and ask, that people are not confident to start a conversation or something. But I thought they'll pick up on it and they'll hopefully just see the website and maybe go home and look it up, And then the idea is that, if we get enough of a sort of swell of interest, if people who buy the T-shirts and are out and about in them, and you don't have to do park runs, obviously, you can go to the pub in your T-shirt.
You don't have to.
We don't expect it. It's just that for me, park run is such a strong message. Like this guy at the last one I did was clearly so amazed. He knew what chronic fatigue syndrome was, and there I was running a park run. So it was a strong message, But anywhere, it's fine. So the idea is, once you're wearing your T-shirt, get some photos in it, front and back, so that we can see what it says on the back, and then we can put them on social media as well. So I am not a social media fan, let's say, but I am attempting to do Twitter. So I've been putting some photos on Twitter and things. So, and we can use the hashtag #WeAreLivingProof, because that's what we are.
Absolutely. That's great. Yeah, fabulous. Yeah. It can only grow, can't it? I mean, and we've had so many ideas so far. I just want to go back to Vicky mentions that she runs the peer support service for MS UK, and it's been an incredible support. And it really can be, if it's, again, if you keep an eye at it's not people talking about symptoms all the time, and it's looking about moving forward and mindset. Be really incredible. So we've got some other questions that we can go on to at the end.
But I've got one other thing to mention that we're planning.
That's what I was going to say. What else?
Yeah, it's quite a significant one. So this comes back to the kind of main purpose that Dan and I originally set out in our minds for what we wanted to try and achieve. So one of our medical advisors is Dr. Sarah Hadfield. It's very confusing because we've got Sarah Howarth and Sarah Hadfield, so you can't even differentiate by calling them Sarah H, because they're both Sarah H. But anyway, Sarah Hadfield, who's a GP, she's based in Devon. She's one of Living Proof's medical advisors, and she and a SIRPA practitioner. Yes, yes.
There's a link there.
Yeah, and she she has volunteered to lead a group of GPs. I think she's got 4 GPs together now, who are now developing an online course for GPs in this stuff.
Yeah.
And it will be hosted on the Living Proof website. It might be available other places as well, but it will be, I think we're going to make it free access, or low cost at least, to encourage GPs to take up on it. And the idea is that it will help GPs understand the mind-body science, recognize it in their patients, you know, those patients who are sort of difficult to treat and who keep coming back with, you know, the same or differing symptoms, but are always kind of ailing, and the doctor can never figure out what's wrong with them. And be able to diagnose it, and then be able to signpost them to the correct or to useful resources, such as the Living Proof website, which itself has a list of, you know, all the other resources on it. So that is, I think that's going to be one of the kind of main areas where we hope to have impact. You know, so what we really welcome from anyone who's listening, particularly anyone who works in the medical profession, is ideas on how we promote that course to GPs once it's out there, you know. And it may come in bits. I haven't actually spoken to Sarah about the detail of where she's at with the format for it or anything. I think she's planning kind of a series of basically training videos. But what we realized is that once she makes the first one, you know, which might be a short sort of 10 or 15-minute introductory video, once she makes that first one, we'll upload it onto the site as an introduction, because it's as well to have something out there than nothing. And then the idea is that after an introductory film is available, then there'll be a series of kind of 5 or 6 further films that break down some of the you know, the detail within that introduction. But even to have the introduction on the site is a really good start, I think. And then anybody that signs up to look at it will work out a way of making sure we've maybe got that GP's details, so that when we upload the second one, breaking down, I don't know, you know, the placebo effect or whichever specific topic, then they'll get notified that there's another one to watch, and they can come back and watch that one. But it's better to get something out there than nothing, I think, as soon as we can.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a fantastic idea. We've talked about it. This is so wonderful. I see it really raise awareness.
Yeah, well, I hope so. I hope so. Sarah's doing an amazing job. You know, she's putting, I think she's putting quite a lot of time and effort into it, and she's sort of whipping these other GPs along to help with it, which is just fantastic. And I'm kind of leaving them to it, to be honest, because, you know, I'm not a GP, I'm not medically trained. They will know significantly better than I do how to educate a GP. You know, what do they need to know to be able to do this, you know.
She's really building up this database of GPs interested in this work as well, which is fantastic.
It's amazing.
So presumably you are looking for other people to get involved, are you?
Yeah, always. So absolutely, I have to be careful with managing my own time. Carol's just ordered a T-shirt literally while we're online. It's just come through. Thank you, Carol. That's what we like to see. Yeah, I have to be a little bit careful with managing my own time and not, you know, because I'm at the moment, I think we've got 12 people volunteering, and I have to kind of oversee, or oversee sounds a bit grand, but, you know, keep an eye on what everybody's doing, and have to be a little bit careful. I want to say yes to absolutely everything, but I have to be realistic, you know, and also stay focused, you know. So, but 2 things in particular that would be great is, it would be wonderful to set up more of the mind-body groups in person in other parts of the UK, and Narinder has already emailed me about hopefully setting one up in Worcestershire where she is, so she and I can have a chat about that in due course. But anybody anywhere else, particularly if you're near a sort of urban centre, as it were, or could host the meetings in an urban centre, you know, that's obviously where you're going to get more people. So any of the kind of main cities, if you're within reach of any of the main cities and you might have an interest in running a mindbody group, then please do get in touch. And ideally, I think we want people who are recoverees running these mindbody groups. They're primarily for recoverees. You know, lots of people who've recovered then go on to become practitioners. So we're ending up with a number of practitioners in the groups as well. But I think as long as, well, not as long as, but I think primarily recoverees, the groups are aimed at just now. So that's one thing that I'd welcome, is more people to run groups. And then the other thing is, if anyone, you know, is interested in getting involved, and it's getting to the point where I'd really welcome help with literally just some of the admin. You know, it's getting, because there's quite a lot happening, there's quite a lot of just admin stuff to deal with. And you know, I just moved house last Friday, and then somehow my brain said, oh, let's launch the T-shirt campaign on Monday, which I didn't really think through, because then of course people order T-shirts and you have to order them, you know, arrange them, design them, order them, and all the kind of admin that comes along with that. So if anybody would like to help with that kind of stuff, that would be amazing. And you know, it would just be, I don't know, sort of a few hours a week, if that. With some of the admin, I'd really welcome help with that. Anybody's interested.
And basically, if they are willing to help, they're keen to get involved, then to contact you via Living Proof.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's a contact form on the website, like I say, or I can give out my email address at the end of the call. But yeah, and then also just, you know, I'm an ideas person, and if people have other ideas of things that we could be doing, then please get in touch. I love new ideas. I love creative things, you know, that we could be doing. Like I say, my own time might be a little bit limited going forward. Well, in the coming few months at least, I'm going to be cycling around the northeast of England for some of it. So if you have ideas and you're prepared to lead that idea, even better, you know, yes. To make that idea happen, then even better. Great. But please do get in touch with any thoughts.
Fabulous. Well, you've done so much since the launch, since before the launch anyway. I'm so impressed with all you've done. And then, like you said, you're building this group of people around you, which can't do everything. It's fabulous. And you've got a really good group.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing, and it's not just me, you know, that like there's quite a lot of people are behind Living Proof now, and really helping and putting their brains into supporting what what we're all trying to do. It's a team effort, I would say. You know, it's just fantastic. So I'm loving it. Loving Proof. Yeah.
But no, this is great. And are you, and I can run back through sort of a couple of comments, but are you open to answer a few questions now?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously, people like Carol just saying really inspiring, it's encouraging. And as Claire says, yeah, absolutely. Parkrun is organises an inclusive community event. Walking, jogging, volunteering are all encouraged, so not only for runners. Absolutely. And you know, I do a boot camp from 8 till 9 on Saturday, and the parkrun starts at 9 o'clock. And some of us occasionally do the parkrun. I haven't for a while, but I said I will at some point again. But yeah, there's so many people there, and I'm always so impressed with the parents that push their kids along in pushchairs, or do the dog, you know, take the dog with them. I just think it's so lovely, especially for children, to be involved from so early with something like that. So Narinda, you asked about Facebook group. Caroline answered here, saying there is a Facebook group, but not posting much at present. Hopefully something will get going as time goes by. And again, it's having somebody to support you in that as well, isn't it? And yeah, Claire says many parkruns also already have links to GP practices, so that's worth knowing as well.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. Actually, I had at some point, part of my brain had thought, I wonder if I could actually set up some kind of partnership with Parkrun, but I didn't take the thinking any further than that. So whoever said that about the partnerships with GP practices,
and
maybe you could get in touch and let me know more.
Doing a Spartan race or a Tough Mudder wearing something like that, any event.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Dan, some of you know Dan, he's a triathlete, and he's planning to get a T-shirt, and so he'll be, I don't know, he might be doing some of these Tough Mudder types events, and we'll hopefully wear his T-shirt at that. So
there are so many people who end up with mind body symptoms leading up to their events or in the middle of the event for what appear to be unexplained reasons. So So any questions from anybody you want to ask? Maybe put it in the chat, or if you particularly want to, you can put your hand up, although because we're pinned, it's difficult to see who's got their hands up.
Oh, right, yeah. I'm gonna look at my list and check I've said everything that I wanted to say.
Yes,
I think I have.
Meantime, if anybody's got any special questions, the chat box. I'm going through everybody, nobody's got their hands up, either technically or physically.
I suppose just two things I wanted to say. One was to say thank you to all the volunteers so far, some of whom are here on the call. It's just great to have interest and support and friends. I'm starting to make some nice new friends through this, which is just amazing. So thank you to all of them. And also, I mentioned a newsletter. I'm a bit ad hoc with putting out newsletters, but they're roughly once a month. They're not that frequent. So if you would like to find out more, sort of be kept in touch with what Living Proof is doing, then feel free to sign up to our newsletter. So somebody's maybe already put it in the chat, but the website is livingproof.org.uk. And my email address, or our email address, is hello@livingproof.org.uk.
Somebody want to write that in, Pippa? Would you like to? Thank you.
Thanks, Pippa.
Yeah, that's a really good idea, and we'll make sure that when we share this video as well, that's included.
Oh yes, and Claire's just reminding me about the Edinburgh Festival event. So one of our other medical advisors, Barbara Phipps, Dr. Barbara Phipps, she's also a GP. I don't think she's on this call. Barbara, so she lives in Edinburgh, and she came up a few weeks ago with this idea that we should host a fringe show in the Edinburgh Festival. Right. So we are doing this. We haven't really thought through how it's going to work yet. Carolyn is part of it, I think, aren't you, Carolyn? Yes, volunteered yourself. And I think there's about 4 of us maybe going to be telling our stories basically on stage, just for one night in the Edinburgh Festival. August the 9th, I think we've signed up for. We've got a venue, and we're in the Fringe programme, which is kind of slightly alarming. So it's not something I ever foresaw myself doing, but here we are. Oh, and Katie wants to be an actor. Great. Well, Katie, I think you're in the States, but you better get on over here. So you can tell us what on earth we need to be doing. Well, we just haven't thought through the format at all yet, but it's going to be, I think it's all Scottish women. I think the 4 of us are Scottish women, so I think we've said something about being Scottish in the programme, just because a lot of the people who come to the Edinburgh Fringe are from overseas, and they might be drawn to seeing a Scottish show, a Scottish play. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah, if you're free on August the 9th and you fancy being in Edinburgh, then
that's good.
We might drag you up on stage. It'll be interactive.
Maybe we should have a SIRPA membership board meeting up in Edinburgh.
There we go. There we go.
So I just want to say thank you, Joanna and Pippa, for putting the links in. And I also, Anna said, are you taking names for the online support group pilot?
Oh, am I taking names? I don't see why not. Maybe email me, and what I could do, I'm just thinking of on my feet here, but maybe I could, if anybody emails saying they're interested, I could sort of give you advance notice when it does get, you know, when we're going to launch it, so that you have like first option to book a space. I think there will be a cost attached to it, but it'll be a very low cost. I think we're saying, and don't quote me on any of this because we haven't nailed down the details, but we're looking at sort of somewhere between £2 and £8 per session on a sliding scale, so that it's not exclusive, so that anyone can join it. You know, we don't, like, that's one of the other principles of Living Proof is, you know, one of my bugbears with this work is that there are some coaches out there who are charging, you know, I mean, in the States, are charging literally $500 an hour, you know, for coaching in mind body. And I think this information should be available to everyone, and
It's trying to get it on the NHS.
Well, ideally on the NHS, yes, exactly, and you know, that's what we're working towards. But at the moment, you know, the best I can do is try and make it available to absolutely anyone. So, you know, we debated should the mindbody online sessions be free, but the reason we've decided to apply a small charge is because if you make things completely free, people often don't value them and then they don't turn up. But if you ask them to pay but if you ask people to pay a small charge, then they've put a value on it by paying that small charge, and hopefully it'll mean that they make more of a commitment to actually turn up and not waste a space that could have gone to somebody else.
Absolutely.
So that's the idea with it. But yeah, by all means, if you're interested, then get in touch either through the website or by email, and that's what I'll do. I'll put together a kind of advance notice group and I can let you guys know ahead of making it public, as it were.
That sounds good, definitely. Okay, so Claire also says she wants to commend you on how great the website itself is. I agree. Really well arranged.
Thank you.
Comprehensive information, and she often refers people to it. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Claire. And Claire messaged me about something else this morning, and I've not answered that yet, but I will. Claire, catching up with everything.
Pippa's just commented, you raising money with your cycling. Pippa's set on joining the flipping pain with your cycling, and Pippa did the 3 English peaks, didn't you, Pippa, last year? And she said she's not trying Ben Nevis again. No matter how much money, I presume, Pippa.
All right, we don't need you to go up when Nevis, Pippa. But am I raising money on the Flipping Pain thing? So this is a bit of a funny one. So Flipping Pain invited me to join, well, invited me to apply, which I did, and it was only later after we got our places that they told us that it is a fundraising thing for pain concern. So Richard Pell, who's the director of Flipping Pain, he said to me, how do you feel about raising money for pain concern? And I said, I was like, it's a bit odd. You know, I don't feel that I can go out and ask for sponsorship for a different organisation that's giving out slightly different messages on pain management / recovery. So I went back to him and I said, I think what we'll do is Living Proof will make a donation to Pain Concern, rather than me as an individual, you know, as the director of Living Proof raising money for Pain Concern. So we're just going to make a donation directly to Pain Concern. So yeah, so I'm not like looking for sponsorship or anything. I mean, if people want to make donations to help me make that donation, if you see what I mean, that would be wonderful. But I'm not actively looking for sponsorship as part of the cycling thing.
But you're doing this big exercise thing. I think that's what Pippa was reading.
Yes, well, yes. So, I am doing that.
Irely's asked a question. Irely's saying, how receptive have the medical audiences been so far?
Well, that's an interesting question, Irely, because I mean, I think you yourself are, you know, sort of doing some of the same things. And I am not sure that I have, trying to think, I don't think I personally have been in a position where I've been speaking to large groups of GPs or doctors that are not already involved in this yet. You know, occasionally you get a person here or there that you happen to start chatting to or whatever. And I think the answer is everybody's different, isn't it? And it also, I mean, you know, you all know this already, but so much of it depends on how you introduce the topic as well. And Claire and I were just messaging about this evening before we came on the webinar. You know, I've had to start rehearsing my elevator pitch for, now that I'm wearing my T-shirt at my park runs, to be ready. What's the answer to the question? You know, how did I recover from chronic fatigue syndrome, to somebody that doesn't know anything about this? And so now what I'm tending to say, the first thing out of my mouth is, oh, it's about neural pathways. And you see people go, what? You know, and then I sort of lead in from there with the science, because when you're talking to people in the West, they're conditioned to believe science, aren't they, rather than anything more ethereal. So if you lead with the science, you hopefully, you know, get their attention.
And it's far easier to do that now than it was 15 years ago.
And it's getting easier all the time, isn't it? Yeah. So so I think, I don't think GPs are just individuals, aren't they, at the end of the day? And I think it just depends on the individual GP rather than, you know, any sort of group. I don't think they're.
And I know Early has
individuals.
Early has talked to a group of doctors, anaesthetists. Sarah Hadfield, as you said, she's done talks to groups of GPs. And on the whole, and I have, and on the whole, these days there's more awareness and interest than there was. And the science, especially when we're talking about pain, has massively helped with that. That's the important thing, is that we now have the evidence base there, which is
I know that Sarah Hadfield did a talk to the British Society for Lifestyle Medicine last autumn, and she said that she had like 4 or 6 GPs contact her afterwards, I think, to find out more, you know, about it, which is great. You know, that's good progress. And like you say, she's gradually gathering this a bigger group of GPs. But I think also it's quite a different message when it comes from a GP. You know, so she'll have a different experience to me going out and saying it. When I'm in a GP's eyes, I'm just a recovered patient, although they are doctors, I think, are getting better and better all the time at hearing the patient voice, you know, including, or not including, but being able to I've lost what I'm trying to say, being able to include the patient voice in their thinking, you know, rather than only believing what other doctors say. So they are getting better at it, but I still think hearing it from another GP is going to come across differently to hearing it from somebody like me.
I would agree. We are going to have to draw things to a close soon. I just want to read out Katie's message. As she says, let me know if you want any directorial input via Zoom. I don't know whether that's about the Edinburgh Festival or anything else, but okay. And Vicky, you said you'd like a brief conversation with me. If you want to just email me at georgie@sirpa.org, you're welcome to. Katie says, I need an elevator pitch. I struggle with that. And that's interesting, because that's something that I've been thinking about a lot recently, because people find it so challenging. And mine changes a lot. And what I was thinking was actually getting a group of us as practitioners, maybe membership all together, or doing it at our CPD weekend that we're having, but actually looking at how can we succinctly and briefly explain this to people. It's something I think everybody finds challenging.
And I mean, I think it's really important. The first sentence that comes out of your mouth needs to be right, doesn't it? But kind of beyond the first sentence, you're into the realms of having to edit it according to how the person's responding to what you're saying, obviously, you know. So if the person just starts looking really confused, then you're going to have to, you know, simplify it or shorten it or something. But if they're like, oh right, oh this sounds familiar, no, you know, then you can obviously go into a bit more detail. I mean, that all of that goes without saying, but for me, it's the very first thing that comes out of your mouth that either gets their attention or doesn't, you know. So I don't think I've got it exactly right myself yet. I'm still testing it as well. Like,
and I think if you haven't got it, if they haven't got it, then they might down the line, because you've sent.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Not many people don't actually accept it immediately, but maybe down the line, whether that's, you know, weeks, months.
Yeah. And I think like the very first person that asked me when I first wore the T-shirt, I'd been at the park run and nobody had asked me at the park run. It was the first time I'd worn it, and I came away a bit disappointed. And on my way home, in the same town where the park run was, I stopped at Tesco to get some shopping. And I was in the cheese aisle, and this woman accosted me in the cheese aisle and said, "You were at parkrun and you T-shirt, blah, chronic fatigue." And it was amazing because by that time I was wearing a fleece on top, so she couldn't even see the T-shirt anymore. So she must have just recognised me. And I was chatting to her about it, and she said, "Oh, her friend's daughter, you know, is very ill in bed with chronic fatigue syndrome, and could she pass on the web address?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely. That's, you know, that's what we're here for," and all the rest of it. And when I came home, I was telling a friend who's not involved in this world, you know, that this had happened. And the friend said, "Oh, you'll be waiting for that daughter to email you." And I said, "No, no, you know, 9 out of 10 people will not pick up on this. So if she emails, fantastic, but I'm not going to be disappointed if she doesn't, because I've learned that you can only plant seeds a lot of the time, and you know, some of those seeds will never germinate. So you just have to let it go, don't you? And you help who you can help.
And as Irene says, metaphors are a great way to explain things. And I love Irene's donkey. If you're interested in knowing what that's all about, go and look at my YouTube channel, and Irene's talks there in SIRPA's approach to so as Lorinda said, it's definitely about awareness initially, as the brain is very skeptical. Absolutely. Irene says, who needs Facebook when you have T-shirts? And at that, I think we need to call it a day. I think we'll all be ordering these T-shirts. But thank you very much, everybody, for listening in. Thank you, Penny, for bringing us all up to date. And I think it's really useful for us to all understand, and we can all share the message. And then we've recorded it, so we can share this as well. But I have a feeling living proof is really going to help get this message out there. It's so important. So congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm really interested to see what happens next. You've had so many amazing ideas and got so many suggestions moving forward. So it's exciting to see how things evolve.
Thank you. Well, and thank you, Georgie. Like none of this would have happened without you, because it all came from you introducing Dan and I inadvertently, and it's all grown from Dan and I working together, you know. So so thank you, and thanks for your ongoing support.
You'd have done something. Congratulations anyway on living proof and moving forward. So thank you very much everybody for being with us tonight, and we'll call it a day now. So nice to see you all. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.